Hey everybody, Glenn here. So before we get into today's episode of Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, I wanted to say this. If you're listening to this, well then so are your potential customers. So now is the perfect time to advertise on Checking In with Anthony and Glenn. We're right in between a couple of sets of different advertisers, so I just wanted to take today's message to say to you that this is a great time for you to invest in our podcast so we can invest in you and your business and help you drive sales, increase awareness, and get people to follow you. So why don't you just drop me a line? I'm Glenn at rouse.media. That's Glenn at ROUSE.media. And I'll be able to help you. Oh, and if that's not enough to get you involved, a couple of times last month, the Checking In with Anthony and Glenn podcast was in the top 200 of every single podcast of the United States. That's right. We were competing against Joe Rogan podcasts. We're competing against NPR's podcasts, all of the Gimlet Media podcasts, all the How Stuff Works podcasts, all of those shows. We are now in the same breath as them from time to time, and it is no better time for you to get your advertising message out. So drop me a line, and let's talk, and let's make it happen. And now, let's check in with Anthony, hey, and me, Glenn.
It's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn.
Anthony!
You told me that we saw each other last Monday, and I didn't remember, so that means
Right.
You may not really make an indelible mark on my heart.
No, I definitely am very forgettable. I think I have that effect on people. One time I was like, "Hey, it's great to see you again," and this woman's like, "Who are you? I don't know who you are." And I'm like, "Mom, seriously, come on."
No, but like we saw each other last week. We did a great podcast in New York City at Rebecca Brooks' place, and we had Carrie Lachlan on, and you are my designer from the show, and now on Extreme Home Makeover. And we had two great podcasts. We spent a lot of time, but as soon as I saw you, it looked like I haven't seen you forever.
I know. Well, that's kind of how it is, Anthony. It's like I've always there with you, but I always seem so far away.
Right. And then next week we're going to Vegas together.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to that. And by next week we're going to Vegas. You're probably hearing this next week, so we're probably in Vegas right now, enjoying ourselves a whole lot of fun. But talking about having a good time, we are back at our de facto home base at the Garden City Hotel on Long Island.
So one of our favorite things to do at the Garden City is to go to the restaurant and have breakfast before we start.
Yes.
So about 9:20 I got here, then Glenn comes down, and as soon as I sat down, the young gentleman, the waiter, Vicente, remembered I like carrot juice, so he got me my carrot juice. And then I asked for, I love crispy muffin with butter.
Right.
It was perfect.
You wanted it dark, almost burnt.
Dark, black.
Yep.
It was perfect. A beautiful omelet that was one of the most delicious omelets I've ever had. Crispy bacon. And it was an absolute perfect meal. And then
I showed up.
I'm going to tell our next guest, because our next guest is going to get a kick out about what I'm about to say.
Right.
There was two really well done sausages that from the buffet that they were about to put on the tray and go into the kitchen. And I saw them, so I ate one on the elevator.
Right.
And then when I went to the men's room, I left the other one outside the men's room because I don't want to bring food into the men's room,
right,
hoping no one would pick it up before I get out there because I was only in the men's room for 45 seconds. Our next guest will tell you what happened to my second sausage because I saw him pick it up and bring it into the back because he didn't know it was mine.
So, what a great introduction.
Yes.
For the one who runs the Garden City Hotel, Mr. J. Grady Colin. How are you, sir?
I'm wonderful, and I'm full because I just had a sausage on the way over here.
It's a shame because that was supposed to be my pocket sausage for the next week.
I come out of the bathroom and I see him turn around the corner and he has a plate in his hand. I know it's my sausage. And so I made believe I didn't see him because I didn't want to embarrass myself. So I saw him go into a room, drop off the sausage, and then come back out in the hallway. And that's why I picked him up to come to the podcast.
Well, this could easily veer off in the wrong direction. I could say something about security reporting on the cameras that there was a man with a sausage headed into the second floor men's room. Fortunately, that was not the case, and it was just an Epicurean experience combined with Mother Nature calling.
Why would you put a sausage on my beautiful furniture in the hallway outside? I felt like terrible doing it, but I was like, I really wanted that sausage.
I know, and I don't know why. You could have just waited because if you come on November 24th for their Friendsgiving at the Red Salt Room, you probably could have had all the sausage that you wanted. They got a big grand brunch buffet. At 11, 11:30, 2 and 2:30, only $99 per person in the Grand Ballroom on Thanksgiving Day. That sounds like a much better idea than cooking and having to deal with people.
Absolutely, but Glenn, we're going to have to figure out who Anthony is bringing for this Friendsgiving.
Yes.
I'm thinking it could be the three of us.
It might be.
Well, I have
or it might be the sausage farm.
Well, anyone that would like to be my friend, I'd like to bring you to the Friendsgiving. It's funny because I saw the Thanksgiving book at the maitre d' stand, and it looked like it was filling up. So tell me about that. What is Friendsgiving?
That is, well, it's something that you and I won't be participating in because we're more family folks. So I guess this is for the single people and people that are away from home. We get a lot of folks from Adelphi College and Hofstra. So some of the college kids get together and they have these little seating vignettes and they celebrate it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so
I got to
nice way to extend the holiday.
Yeah, Thanksgiving is my absolute favorite holiday because it's quintessentially American. It's everything that I want a holiday to be because it espouses love and friendship and togetherness, and it's non-denominational, meaning that all Americans can feel like they are participating in it. You know, for me, Christmas Day is about getting good Chinese food and going to the movies. So we're not all doing the same sort of thing.
Talking about movies, I'm going to see The Irishman tonight.
Yeah?
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Yeah, it's in a limited release right now. It's only in for a couple of weeks, and it's going to be in New York City. So I'm going with my family, and then in a couple of weeks, it's going to be Netflix. It's going to be on Netflix, and it's the first time Netflix or really anybody's ever done this major $200 million movie with Pacino and De Niro and Pesci and who else? All these people in it.
I liked it when it was called Casino.
Or Goodfellas. So this is like Goodfellas 3.
Yeah. Right.
That's really good.
Well, I want something else you might be interested in. Through our celebrity chef, David Burke, he introduced me to a fellow named Gianni Russo.
Right.
Gianni Russo. His name ring a bell?
He's an actor.
He's an actor. He's a singer. He's a storyteller.
He was in one of my Leo Rossi, who's one of my best friends.
Right.
He was in one of his movies.
Yeah.
I know that name.
Godfather 1.
Godfather. Oh, he's what do you call it? He's the guy that gets hit in the head with the garbage can from James Caan.
Right, Carlo. He was
Right.
the abusive brother-in-law.
Right.
But he has just written a fantastic book, which is a memoir of his life.
Right.
And he does sort of a supper club show where he chronologically takes you through his life. He's accompanied by a pianist, and he tells some wild stories. He told me some on the phone that, you got to get the book.
Is he going to do it here?
He's going to do it here. So we're looking at some dates right now. Might be Valentine's Day.
Cool.
So it could be a fun way to spend Valentine's Day. But he promises he's going to let us know who killed Kennedy.
Ooh.
And talk about his relationship. He dated Marilyn Monroe for 4 years.
Wow.
So this is some juicy stuff.
While she was dating the Kennedys, or
Well,
I am not in the know yet. But when I find out, I'm going to put it in my memoirs.
But that's really exciting. And if you go down to Little Italy, he
Right.
hangs out in a restaurant down there.
Yep.
And I've seen him a couple of times, and he seems like a fascinating. But I'm going to get his book. He seems a fascinating person.
Yeah, I'm getting it this weekend. This is going to be.
And I was on the set. I did a movie, and I was on the set with James Caan, and James Caan was telling me about that scene when he's bagging him in the head with the garbage can. And he said, if I get up, this is exactly how he said it, if I get up to take a piss at 3 o'clock in the morning and see that effing scene one more time, I'm going to kill myself.
I can imagine. It is on television every other night. And Thanksgiving, they run the whole series.
yeah?
Yeah.
I gotta watch 1 and 2.
What
again.
happened? What's the best series in the world on New Year's Day that they run for 24 hours?
I know that there's one movie they run on Christmas Day.
No,
Christmas Story.
it was a TV show. They run it 24 24 hours.
Well,
it
it's
Sopranos?
either
Sounds like a
either
lead-in.
I'm thinking Channel 11.
Hello,
and it's either
Ball.
the I was about to say it was either the Honeymooners or the Twilight Zone.
So
right?
if I say Hello Ball, it's
the
Honeymooners.
Honeymooners, of course.
Right. And that's interesting. That back in the day when we were growing up, it's like you had Channel 2, 4, 7, 11, and 5 and PBS, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Don't
when
forget
everybody
9 out of Secaucus, New Jersey.
And when everybody was watching
Yeah.
The Honeymooners, I Love Lucy, whatever, we all have those references.
Sure.
Nowadays, 20 years from now, we're not going to have those same references because there's so much content out there right now. And if you have 5 people in your family, we're all watching separate shows.
That's so true.
Nobody in my family sits on the couch and watches one show together. We're all individually watching our own shows. And I hate to say that, but it's true. So there's no references. Like I could say Hello Ball, and everybody our age knows exactly what I'm talking about. If I say Lucy's Chocolate Factory, everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's 100% of the time. And nowadays, it's just different. There's more content, but everybody's got their personalized TV in their hand.
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely in a hyper-focused kind of way where everybody's getting their entertainment choices personalized exactly to them, which I think is having this effect of kind of pulling us all apart. We don't have a lot of those shared communal experiences anymore. And I'm wondering, it's getting a little too philosophical, Grady. I don't know if you want to go down this road, but I wonder if that's something that's pulling us apart as Americans, right? Because not just entertainment, but it seems like everything we're doing is all on our own, catered exactly to our own needs, et cetera, et cetera. And I think we're starting to lose that sense of doing it all together and doing things for the sake of being together as opposed to just doing it for yourselves, where now we seem to be focused really on ourselves alone as independent people.
That's it. We've absolutely become our fathers now.
Right. Yeah.
These are things Dad would say. Why is everyone walking around with Walkman on? They're tuning out.
I know. That's right.
They're in their own world.
But it's so true with these phones and stuff like that. Everybody is in their own worlds. And you see it in New York City where nobody is paying attention. Not to imply 20 years ago they were paying attention to each other. But it's not like now everyone's in a rush and separated from each other. And you don't have that thing if somebody stops you and says hello anymore, that you have that moment between two people. There's a lot less of that going on.
Now we can't discern whether people are walking down the street talking to themselves as they were 20 years ago. They're actually talking to someone.
That's the worst. That's absolutely the worst thing. You can't tell a crazy person anymore from a businessman anymore.
But I think one of the things I find is when you do put people in a group, whether family or friends, people are really jonesing and like really, really, really want that group activity and that group feeling. Yesterday, we had my daughter put a little video together for my sister-in-law who, when she laughs, she just can't stop laughing. So over the years, she has all this video. So my daughter cut it all together, and we went downstairs, all into the basement, and we put it on the big screen. And the entire family, there's maybe 20 of us downstairs, and we're all watching my sister-in-law just laugh for like 3 minutes straight and all these different clips. And like you can tell the family didn't want to break up after that. They wanted to watch something else. It's like, because when I say break up, like the guys went upstairs to play cards, the kids went upstairs to hang out, the girls went in the kitchen to talk whatever they were talking about. But like when we said we're going to go downstairs and watch this, everybody went downstairs and everybody wanted to be together. So I think when you do make an ability for people to get together, people do want to get together. I think that's why podcasts are working, because people want to hear a group, But to your point, I think when you are getting the content individually, you feel like they're talking to you, and you feel more empowered. Right. Mm-hmm. And we're not talking to each other anymore. We're talking at each other. And I have very strong political views. You have strong political views. Nobody knows what they are. They think they know. But the second I say my political view to somebody else, it's no longer they care about my opinion. It's they attack me personally. They don't, because I never talk about it. But I'm just saying if I did. And that's what's happening in this country. And so I just had a conversation with somebody I'm very close friends with. And we have completely different political views. And she said something to me, and she's like, oh. I was like, yeah, I'm good. She goes, really? I was like, yeah. She goes, oh, I didn't think you would like that because so-and-so. I was like, no, it's absolutely perfect. I said, I want you to tell me these things and how you feel, because that's the only way I can understand you better. I still love you. I think you're great. But, do they think your politics, are different than mine? Of course. But you cannot like their politics, but we are like, you can't say who you're affiliated with, because you will get destroyed, and I will even destroy you. Like personally, I'm like, oh, that's son of a bitch. Okay, right? But then I catch myself and say, no, I want to hear their point of view. So I have to catch myself for a second, and now I'm actually convincing myself. It's like, just let people be who they are and stop attacking them for what they believe.
Wow, yeah, no reason to
Seems
disagree.
Pretty simple, right?
Yeah. All right, so let me do a segue here. Do you feel that because the nature of how we exist day to day has changed so much, and you hear a lot about millennials being disconnected and only be able to communicate through cell phones, et cetera, how does that affect you with your ability to hire people, engage people, and create a sense of development for them to make them future leaders, if at all? Maybe it's just a common misconception.
Look, one, we have to, because that's who's coming up. So as the wheel of life turns, we need to develop
Right.
that.
And let me say, this is not an anti-millennial thing. I think millennials are doing a terrific job. But you grew up with different technologies. You're all digital natives. And you look at the universe in a fundamentally different way than us folks who existed before the Internet. Sorry, Grady. Please continue.
Well, look, I think generationally, we people like me that are sort of in the senior management position who are making the decisions about who they're bringing in are having to learn how to identify and understand the millennial perspective. Probably not unlike what it was like when I was in my 20s and getting into this business. I thought differently and had different needs. It wasn't as categorized as it is now. I wasn't referred to as a millennial.
Right.
But I'm sure that
you
sure those senior
referred
managers
to as like a Gen X?
I don't think people were as conscious of it. I didn't hear that language back then.
Right.
I wasn't being categorized. Mm-hmm. I wasn't thinking that way.
Right.
I never heard it mentioned from upper management who were the gatekeepers of my progression. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But I'm sure they had they had a different work ethic, if you will. Like I came into the business when there was, yelling and screaming at one another was permitted, and there'd be an occasional item thrown across the kitchen at someone.
That's true.
That is so far from anything that could happen now, and there's a requirement to stimulate and inspire and influence those with a millennial perspective. They just look at things a little differently, and one can sit back and complain about it, or they can embrace it and figure out how to get the most out of them, because those are the folks that are the future of our organizations, right?
And I think the misconception is the millennials are lazy or whatever. I don't find that.
That's not true.
Matter of fact, there is a young man that I'm friends with that I asked you if there was a position in the hotel. He's in the hotel school. He's a friend of mine of the family, and he's a young man. He's 19 years old, and you gave him a job here, I think about 6 months ago, and he's a millennial. How's he doing?
He's doing great. He's everyone's unique, so I can't say every millennial behaves the same way. He's a little bit younger than the average person we would hire. I'd say he's around 19 or 20.
I wonder if he's actually Gen Z.
Maybe he's Gen Z.
I think he's actually Gen Z.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to have to check his application.
Yeah, I know.
Because if he misrepresented and put down millennial and check that box, we'll have to have a talk.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep us on point with arbitrary titles. Generations.
Is he any different than us growing up? Does he want it any less?
I think he's one of those guys that might have, growing up in our generation, that may have been very serious. I was not very serious.
I was very serious.
I was more playful.
Yeah.
I worked hard, and I thought work ethic was important and tried to stay ahead in progressing. But this fella is super serious about attaining more knowledge.
Right.
Almost too fast. Going to slow him down a little. Not to say he's impetulant, but people that are around that age, they want to move quickly.
Yeah, right.
Conquer the world right away. I think he has his eye on my seat, so I'm keeping an eye on him.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, you better have an eye on your seat.
Well, I hope one day that happens, because I'm not going to be here forever. I always think of it that way.
Right.
If you're hiring people to fill an open slot, the organization's not going to grow.
Right.
If you hire people with the intent of thinking about them for the next 2 or 3 positions, then you've got tomorrow taken care of. And, more importantly, you won't be having a conversation with them 6 months down the road where they say, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. You get to know them a little bit more, spend a little bit extra time. I'm the 3rd or 4th interview.
Right.
And I spend 45 minutes to an hour with everybody.
When he said you spoke to him about another potential opportunity, I was like, wow, he took his time to speak to you. I mean, you're a 19-year-old kid that just, is an entry-level job, and the man in charge who's been doing this for so long took the time. That just says a lot about you. And, going back to your point of that he wants knowledge he wants a lot of knowledge and he's very serious. And I always say, and I know you believe this as well, that I'd rather, slow somebody down than try to speed them up. Because you can't speed people up. You can't. I've tried my whole life to push people forward, and you can't. The good ones, I have to basically put a cage around them. And like, hey, you need to relax. Like, you're going to get there, but you're going to blow a gasket if you don't. So our job is to get those people that are about to blow a gasket and slow them down. But have you ever been able to take somebody that was lazy and push them forward? I've never been able to. I've been trying to do it with Glenn for a year now.
Sometimes they're in a position and you have to, and there's that old expression, the mind will absorb what the ass will endure. So you have to inspire in different ways and motivate.
The mind will absorb what the ass will endure.
I think that's the name of the show for the week.
Please write that down, everyone.
Yeah, that's a good title for the podcast.
All right. So one of the misconceptions that I think is out there that I think goes to the heart of what you're dealing with is that we tend to put millennials and maybe Gen Z. We haven't formed an opinion of them yet, but when we are going ahead and we're creating this one size fits all description for the generation, I think we wind up calling them lazy, but they're not lazy. I think that they're bringing a different set of priorities than we are bringing when we first entered the workforce in the way that we lived our lives. Grady, you talked about that older generation when we first came in and how they did things differently. That generation expected us to conform to what they were doing and behave as if we were them.
Exactly.
If they wanted our opinion, they would give it to us.
Our generation has either not forced the other generation or said maybe that isn't the best way to do it, and is allowing, I think, millennials to look and work and interact with the universe in a very different way that we are. And to call them lazy, I think, is foolish, when I think what they're really doing is they're putting more emphasis on living and having life, something that I really wish that I did more of, because I've worked so many freaking hours and I haven't done a lot of the cool things those kids have done. And I don't know if one way is better than the other, but it's got to affect how you approach everything that you're doing with trying to motivate, engage, and retain people.
It's about casting, I think. Kind of like in the movies, you have to find the right actor for the right character. And you don't know that right away. There's a leap of faith that happens on both sides if you spend the right amount of time up front talking to them and getting to know them, but also asking not about what experience they're bringing, but where they'd like to see themselves in the business a few years down the road. It may be a dream or an aspiration, but it's something you have to nurture because that's of high value to them. And if you don't do that, 6 months, 9 months down the road, they want the next thing, and they want to know if they're pedaling towards that destination they talked about in the beginning. So it's important to listen to those things. If I meet someone that just does not have the identity for being the director of human resources, and they say, one day I'd like to be in HR. And I think, let's talk about that, because I'm not seeing it. We're not hiring you for that now. It's good to have a goal 2 or 3 years down the road. But how do you plan to get there? And, there are certain identity characteristics that one needs to have for that. A little bit more listening skills and compassion and identity for that role. So if you don't see it, you have to say up front, you know what, I really don't know at this point. We can start a relationship, you'll fill this position, and we'll give you opportunities to be exposed to it, but let's come back and talk about whether it makes sense. I find that whether it was millennials or even generations earlier, they have romantic notions about what certain positions in the hotel are going to be. The classic one is, I want to be an event planner. And lo and behold, it always seems to emanate from this Jennifer Lopez movie, The Wedding Planner. It seems glamorous and romantic, and we're planning. You and I know that's got little to do with what's really going on when you're planning an event, or you're a catering director or a catering sales manager.
One of my daughters is in college to be, guess what?
An event planner.
Yes.
Do you need to go to college to be an event planner?
Well, she does if she wants to live in my house.
Right.
There you go. There you go.
But that's true. But I think some of the so the other issue is when using a very specific example, that individual may think they want to go into HR because they're bringing all of that with them. But they may find very well that once they get here, that maybe you're right. Maybe the path that you envision for them is probably more accurate based on their personality and their potential than what they were thinking. So I'm sure that once people get involved in the job in the day-to-day and they see it's not as romanticized as it is in the movies, maybe they do change, maybe they do adapt, and maybe they realize there's more opportunities to them that they hadn't considered prior. Is that something that you experienced too?
I would say that's the case 90% of the time. Cool. After we're working together for a few years. They see more of the business and they see more of the reality of these romanticized notions that they had about certain aspects, and they gravitate towards something that gives them this inner reward that they need, this sense of satisfaction and gratification and opportunity to fit their personality into a proper role. Some people have very effusive personalities, and you put them in a position at the front office and they feel caged. They need to get out, move around, interact with guests, and they're a fantastic ambassador. They bring great energy.
They're concierge.
Staff loves them. But there could be a restaurant manager, concierge.
Right. And for those of you folks out there who don't really know what the Garden City Hotel is, it's a 4-diamond luxury property here in Garden City, obviously on Long Island. Really a one-of-a-kind type of property here in this particular area. So it's very different than a lot of the folks listening out there that might be at your traditional select service hotel. So you're looking for different types of personalities, and because it's at the luxury level, everything is a little bit more elevated when it comes to service, when it comes to dress, everything.
This is the Plaza of Long Island.
Right, that's a great way of putting it.
And to get back to what we were just saying, millennials, Gen X, whatever the hell you want to call anyone, and I think that I just hate those titles because we're all just humans. If you look at us back when we were coming up, we don't want anything different than the people that are coming up today. We don't want anything different. The difference was we were afraid to ask for it. We were afraid to ask for a day off.
That's a good point.
We were afraid to ask.
I would have never thought.
Yep.
We were afraid to say, no, I can't work overtime.
That's right.
We were petrified.
Right.
We sat where we were supposed to sit, and we worked our ass off, and hopefully, eventually, they would pat us on the back and say, here's a raise and here's a promotion. To think that we can ask for a lunch hour, to think we can ask for a day off, to think that I can say, hey, can I take that position, was not thought of. We wish we were the Generation X. We wish we were the millennials because we had the same aspirations as they did. Now, if you think of me 30 years ago, think yourself 30 years ago, I'm the same person I was 30 years ago. I just didn't talk as much. I worked more and talked less. Now I talk more and work less, which I really like a lot better. But I was afraid.
Wendress raised his hand and nodded affirmation on that point.
I was afraid to ask for a raise.
Right.
I was afraid to ask for promotion.
Oh, absolutely.
Petrified. And when I got an agent, once I got on TV, I was like, oh, that's a lot easier. You deal with it.
Right.
And then
Yeah,
I'll
totally.
just be mean through you. I can't be mean through, talking to my boss, but I can tell him, no, I won't do that. And then they'll say, well, they said then the show's canceled. No, I'll do that. I was just kidding.
He misspoke.
And they would say, I misunderstood. You know how many times I misunderstood Anthony? That's not what he meant.
You know what you can also do? You can walk that back. Here's an expression I love.
Yeah, you're welcome. But so it's not. They're not wanting anything that we didn't want. We were just scared.
It's funny. I have a colleague here, and this is the third property I've worked at with him over 35 years.
Right.
And when we reflect on the earlier days, he said, "Yeah, you know what they did? They used mushroom management on us. What's that? They kept us in the dark and fed us bullshit. And we just went to work.
Mushroom management. I got to remember that.
So, no, that's exactly the truth. We just
kept
worked
us in
and
dark
worked. And I think
bullshit.
as you got older, our generation then looked at a millennial with an extreme imbalance at times of wanting work-life balance. And we thought, I wasn't raised with any work-life balance.
Right.
This pays for that. I was always told, oh, don't worry, just work that next week. We'll get a day off after that. It builds integrity, was what my boss used to tell me.
Yeah.
I thought, God, I have a lot of integrity, but I can't pay my rent.
Right. You
exhausted.
work 7 days next week, and we'll give you 2 comp days. I'm still waiting for 50 comp days I never got.
I know,
Did you ever take your comp days?
Because you can't take any comp days.
Well, they were clever. Once you started to, they told you they expired.
They expired, right. They expired. And it's not even they expired, and it's not even you couldn't. They would look at you crooked. And I think for people of our generation that are still at it and still, like, I'm still chopping at the bit and I still love this business, is like when someone asks you for something, they're like, oh, you're not grateful. I love people that ask for what they want. It turns me on. It's like, ask for what you want. I may say no. But the last thing I want is I want somebody around me to not feel just a pure heart, that they feel happy and they feel light and they feel like anything can be said. I just had this conversation. I'm doing a new show, and a friend of mine actually was on my show. We've become friends over the years, and he wrote me yesterday, and he was very critical of the show. And he goes, I'm sorry. And I called him up. I go, what are you sorry for? I said, the second you stop being critical is the second I want to be your friend. It's like, if you don't want the truth, then you're just as culpable as the person that's holding the truth back from you. You have to take the truth. And then you can, but this is where I think the problem lies in human behavior. You got the truth, but now you're afraid to tell them how you feel about the truth you just received. So give me the truth, and then just be ready for me to tell you how I feel about your truth. I may say your truth makes sense to me, which it did when he was being truthful. Okay, and I explained to him why, and we came to an agreement. Or I can say, I don't believe your truth and I don't like your truth, but let's go have a drink. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, I do think that's a problem. But I also think that there's been too many participation trophies in life to such an extent that when the truth is delivered in an unvarnished way, people tend to discount reality and say, no, that can't be possible.
Yeah, but I also think the person delivering the truth doesn't know how to do it. I think there's an art to delivering the truth.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think if you deliver it, whether you got a participation trophy or not, if you deliver it appropriately and timely, because maybe they don't need to hear the truth at that moment. Maybe you have to wait an hour. Maybe you have to wait a week. Maybe you have to wait a breath. Maybe you don't deliver that truth. So I think there's an art to being direct and delivering that truth.
Now, one of the things that I hear, Grady, is that you're supposed to offer like two positive things before getting into something negative that might have some sort of constructive element. Does that ring true to you? And how do you handle those situations when you really need to get into it with people to be honest and truthful?
Well, I always reflect on this one thing I took out of the Jack Welch book. And that was one of those.
He was the former CEO of GE back in the day and has been known for being amazing with management techniques. So please continue.
Right. One of his core beliefs was to create a culture that allows people to be candid, respectful, and professional, but candid. We have to, not reactive, you have to be thoughtful, but be direct with people. Now, I aspire to have that in the culture in this workplace at the Garden City Hotel. And it makes it easier to not have to candy coat things when you have to be direct and deliver an incisive critique that's for the benefit of the business primarily, but I think also for the benefit of the individual's personal growth. If it's a subordinate, they need to hear these things in order to grow. I have people come back to me a year later that I'm still working with, and they say, boy, when you said that to me, I've always been thinking about it. So that's good. I gave them something to think about. And I think that your ability to be candid with them is a testament to endorsing them and saying, I think you're intelligent enough to understand this, thoughtful enough to process it, and focus on grading your own paper a little bit more. But you always have to receive that feedback. It's perspective.
I think that's a good point. If I'm arguing with you and being candid with you and being direct with you, that means I think you have the ability to go further. If I'm quiet, and everybody knows that. If I'm quiet around you, if I have a staff of 100 and there's 10 people I'm not really talking to, I'm being very kind and being nice to, but I'm not really engaging them, they probably should be getting a resume together.
Yeah, you've talked about that in the past.
Yeah, and I think that's more. And one of the things, to your point, is being candid, and I coined this phrase in my head a couple weeks ago. I've been talking about. It's called kind killers. I want kind killers. So if we're in a boardroom, I want to kill my competition, right? I'm not really caring about what their profit and loss statement says. I care about the people that I have to feed in my building and in my family. So I want to kill and I want to win, but I want everybody to be kind when we're doing it. Okay, so I think that's really important. I think whether you're a ballerina, whether you're a general manager, or whether you're a baseball player, the people that are focused and really relentless in what they do, they're a killer. But a lot of those people are so engaged in doing what they're doing, and they're basically taking out so much stress and focusing it on what they're doing that they're actually kind,
right? Because
they're getting everything they need out of that thing. So if you work out, and you're a guy that works out 7 days a week, you don't have enough energy to be nasty. So those people tend to be kind because they're so focused on being successful that's where their energy goes. Now they don't have time to complain. They don't have time to be mad at their friends or their enemies. They're just so focused. And I think if you really see that in sports or in business, the people that really have achieved great success, who are killers, are relatively kind because they're too busy to worry about you and to be nasty. And so I've learned that in my group, if you're not a kind killer, you can't be in my group. If you're a killer and you're not kind, get out. If you're kind but you're not a killer, get out. Those two things are absolutely mutual. They have
the way you run that culture, I'm sure that everyone understands that because they see you demonstrate that. You're consistent in the way you communicate with everyone. You share feedback. And if someone's toe got stubbed a little, then you just move on. Because it is onward and upward, and the good pushes out the bad. So when you're focused on the work, and you're focused and you're behind a strategy, there's not time for that, and it shouldn't be that way.
But I think that's so important what you just said. You just taught someone that was listening something you can't even learn in school for 4 years worth of school. You just said something I think really is the most important thing in business, any business. The kind pushes out the bad, or the good pushes out the bad. What does that mean? I know what it means, but explain what that means. Like, break that down.
Well, you can take it back to some thing you heard as a kid. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. Yep. Idle minds are the devil's workshop. Mm-hmm. That listen, those who are busy finding social experiences at work, and they exist, and we build great friendships. But we're here for a purpose, and if you don't demonstrate that you understand the mission and how we're going to do it, and the manner in which we're going to do it, which is going to be in a professional, dignified, and respectful manner, and you don't get behind that, then you fall into that swamp of, thinking all of these thoughts and criticizing and whispering in the corners instead of, this is where the good pushes out the bad. The good is the work. The good is staying on mission
right.
all the time. Because from the hotel business, there's never a finish line. Mm-hmm. And you can be growing and growing, and then something else happens in your market or economic conditions, and you have to be adaptive, and you have to turn on a dime. This can't be an ocean liner
right.
veering off course. You're not going to get it away from the icebergs quick enough. So everybody stays focused, and a good way to keep people focused is feedback and incisive critique once in a while. And I think when you finish up that incisive critique with someone, back to your point, Glenn, about talking about some positives as well. I might explain after I talk to someone directly, and I can see it's a bit of a biting conversation for them. I might explain to them why they can do it,
right?
How, and that you've demonstrated in the past that you can make adjustments. You just weren't seeing this one quick enough. So that's why we're stopping the train for a minute, getting off. I'm going to realign your perspective a little bit. Now get back on and run that area just the way I know you can. You have our trust. You're running a business unit. So I think that's the positive. You're instilling confidence by issuing this critique. It's a responsibility to rise to the occasion. It's a responsibility to demonstrate that you can adapt and adjust.
Right. And I'll say, as in my professional life, when I have been dinged and I've really had to step back after being told something, and after I lick my wounds and feel sorry for myself a little bit, and then I come around to realize that person was right, and then when I was able to actually successfully achieve that skill or whatever it is that I was being critiqued about, I find that to be so much more satisfying than just pretending you're good at everything all the time and just going along and pretending nothing is changing. Because the more things that you could overcome, those things, those deficits that we all have in our personalities, if we could get past them, if we could become that better person, that to me is so much more satisfying and lets you sleep so much better at night than being stuck with the thinking you're amazing thing when you're not really at all, right?
Yeah, my father gave me a little advice. I had gone to some interviews and I was asking him, they're asking me these questions about how do you motivate the staff and how do you direct them and get them, worked up for what's ahead. And he said, I don't know anything about the hospitality business, Grady, but I'll tell you, people are motivated when they know where they stand.
Right.
So be consistent and, acknowledge the positive and acknowledge what's substandard, but do it every day, all the time. And it creates an order and a structure for people. So I always felt better when I heard that I was off the mark. I got some feedback. And sometimes it took a few years for a couple of points to get through to me. I just needed a little more seasoning here on planet Earth to mature and figure it out. But then there were those things that are still in my mind. There may be something I see in the day-to-day operation of a hotel that triggers a thought from 1986 when someone had their chest pressed up against my back and was screaming in my ear about something. And I said, I'm never going to forget that.
I don't think we are here today if our ancestors couldn't overcome really difficult things. We didn't have light for millions of years. We didn't have refrigeration for millions of years. We didn't have 99.9% of the comforts we have today. And somehow our ancestors got us here. So we need push. We need to be hardened.
Right.
We, as human beings, our DNA, we need stress. And I think what you're seeing in our country today with all the medications and all, I have so many friends that have young men, sons that are just depressed on anxiety medicine. Their parents don't want them to go to the military. I'm like, please get them in the military because they'll get them off anxiety medicine because they have structure. They'll be pushed. I think our greatest achievement is that we've been able to overcome as humans really hard, difficult tasks.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be undermined by not. Everybody always goes to the tagline, everybody gets a trophy and everybody's soft. But when you really look at it from a history standpoint, it is absolutely like we need air and we need water. We need to be pushed and we need to have hard stuff and overcome hard stuff.
You're right.
We're basically 100% built that way.
Yep.
And when things are going way too easy for me, I get soft and I get comfortable and I get crazy in my head.
Right.
And I'm in the gym a lot because I'm throwing weight against the wall because if I don't, it's just going to come out in depression and negativity. And so I have to keep myself grinding, or if I become too soft, I just get too crazy. And I think that we just use, again, once you use these taglines, everybody gets a trophy
right.
or everybody's soft, which are perfectly reasonable. I think people attack those taglines and not really what the underlining is.
Right. That's part of that generalization going back to the millennial point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the way you and I look at things, very similar because of the generation and because of this area that we come from, which is, you know, you have to have the killer instinct. How do you find a middle ground between the requirement of the team today that
right.
is from that millennial generation, whose parents were probably those who experienced that culture of work-life balance that was introduced, you know, back in whatever the 80s, the late 80s. You'd hear about that after total quality management, right?
Right.
You heard about work-life balance, and I remember my boss saying, "This work-life balance is going to ruin our business."
Right.
There's no work-life. We're open 7/24. That's good for the banking industry.
Right.
Not for us. But you do need pressure. You do need pressure. I tell people here, we need to create positive tension. Sounds better.
That's great. For me, I always look at it as you need to have a certain level of discomfort to be motivated to do
right.
better and move forward.
But that is something that's a turnoff for those in this current generation. You know, and a generalization is they have to hear in the beginning a thank you, and it's wonderful. If you go right into, you know, you're in the moment,
right.
and you apply that positive tension and you create some stress, you know, as a tool of manipulation to get things moving quicker, they tend to shut down.
Yeah.
There's a withdrawal because it doesn't feel good, does it?
No.
Pressure doesn't feel good.
No.
So it goes right into this is a negative thing. And then it's, I don't know
You're
if I
mean.
can do this. I'm overwhelmed. I'm already doing too much. And, you know, ironically, 10 years down the road, they'll be saying the same things we're saying because stuff has to get done. That never changes. We are always up against it in whatever the business is, especially in a service industry where there's an expectation. The customer comes through the door.
Right.
There's an expectation every day of the week, any time of day. You can't sit back and lick your chops and go, what are we going to do? I don't feel good today I'm unhappy. You got to turn it on and you got to go.
Yeah.
To me, it comes down to the container of milk on. You've heard me say that
Yep.
before. The container of milk on the table. We got to put containers of milk on our table. That's it. That's what it comes down to. So if you want to kind of take the weak way out and you don't want to handle the pressure, you're not going to have a container of milk on your table eventually in your life. Like, you need to pay the bills and you need to feed your family. And the way we do that is by making money. I always say my number one priority is to make the owner as much money as possible. Because if I make the owner as much money as possible and they buy a new boat, that means my housekeepers get a new car.
Right.
That means my housekeepers get their kids going on vacation. That means my kids go to college. So again, it's not a political stance. It's like we all have to help each other because unfortunately, the way you pay for a container of milk is with money. Also, getting back to the Jack Roach book, I love that book for so many reasons. And when he said work-life balance, he said that there's no such thing as work-life balance. It doesn't
right.
exist. Some days you work harder, some days you play harder. And sometimes you make decisions that have consequences. Every decision you make for your work-life balance has a consequence, period, end of story. So I'll give you a perfect example of what happened to me just recently. I was in Las Vegas, and I was coming home. I was going to come home Thursday and be home Friday. My daughter had a volleyball tournament on Saturday.
Right.
So I would have been home in time for her volleyball tournament. And I've been to almost every single one of her tournaments, games since she's a kid. And there's a person that came to me and said, hey, in San Diego, we're having this big event. We'd like you to be there. We think we can do business. Anyway, social media stuff, whatever. I was like, no, thank you. It sounds great, but I'm not interested, whatever. And then I started realizing who was going to be there, and I started realizing, hey, maybe I can do this. I'm not getting paid to do this, but you know what? I'll just pop in, pop out. I'm going to go to my daughter's volleyball game on Sunday, her other tournament. My wife will go Saturday. My wife says, don't worry about it. Just go. You're right there. Just go do it. If you feel like you need to do it for your business, go do it. So I did it. It was a good event. I met Randy Zuckerberg again. Yep. Everything was good. I learned stuff. I actually did get some stuff for my company. It was all good. My daughter had the greatest tournament of her life. She won the tournament for the first time, and literally people were coming up to her saying, like, oh, my God, like the best volleyball player at the tournament.
Wow.
And I missed it. And it broke me a little bit. I cried about it. I was like, holy shit, I missed my daughter's volleyball tournament. But I made a decision. I'm not mad about the decision I made. That decision had a consequence. 99% of the time, I make the decision that's a positive influence for my family because I can. But I made a decision at that moment. Whether it was the right or wrong decision doesn't matter. What matters was there was a consequence that I have to deal with. And my daughter knows I would love to be there. My daughter was excited that my wife went because my wife said I say to my daughter all the time when it comes to sports because I'm there all the time, I'm proud of you, whatever. When my wife says it because she's not there as much, she said it made her cry. She goes, well, Mommy said she was proud of me, made me cry. It's my 17-year-old daughter who's the captain of our volleyball team. So maybe it had a good. So I look at it. I tend to look at it in a positive way. That it was a positive thing. So, but anytime you choose work-life balance, don't blame your boss and don't blame your family. You make a decision, live with your decision, and there's no such thing as work-life balance. Every decision in your life has a consequence. If you decide to buy a car or take a bus or a train or marry somebody or buy a shirt, not buy a shirt, buy new clothes, don't buy new clothes, have a hole in your pants, don't have a hole in your pants, everything has a consequence. What we have to do better as a society is not so much who's softer, who's stronger, just own the consequence of what decision you made.
Right. Well, two things on that. I think that's probably Anthony taking a swipe at my sartorial wardrobe choices over there. But number two,
did you have a softball game this morning?
Maybe. It was in 1978, though. All right.
I thought that was a Jethro Tull tour shirt that didn't get the printing of the Aqua album or something.
But the second, they're dying over here.
If he turns around, his shirt's going to say, donated by JJ's Auto Shop.
But the other thing could have been that had you gone to that volleyball game, the series of events may have played out very differently because you being there may have affected her mood, may have affected something intangible that maybe she wouldn't have performed to doing so great. So there is always a possibility. I know it's impossible to actually know, but there is a possibility that she might not have done as well with you being there.
That's very valid because each week I realize when I watch the New York Jets, they lose.
I gave up.
So I'm going to stop watching just to turn the season around.
Why would you get me angry? Yesterday was the most ridiculous Jet game I've seen. Worse than the Patriots. Could you expect the Patriots?
Worse than the Patriots. I couldn't even turn it on yesterday because I was too depressed.
When the Patriots spanked the Jets a couple of weeks ago, you expect that.
Yeah.
But when 0-7, Miami Dolphin team beats them by 14 points.
It's not good.
And not only beats them, but embarrasses them. Like the Jets should just take their uniforms off and start over. And it's the first time I'll ever say this because I'm not a big, I don't talk sports usually publicly, but I think it's a coaching problem.
I think it's an ownership problem.
Oh,
I think it's just very sad. Problem. I mean, my parents went to the Super Bowl in 69, 70.
They played in
Super Bowl III. Yeah, that was the last time the Jets won. That was when Namath guaranteed.
No, I was going to say your parents played in the Super Bowl.
No,
oh.
I think they made me though during that Super Bowl. My birthday seems to be suspiciously around 9 months or so right after that event. Now I get thinking about
the
that.
outcome of a Jet victory.
Yeah,
Haussman.
the last Jet victory, and probably the opposite of that for the world with me being around. But anyway, so what about this whole notion of keeping people engaged in the workplace, because you are running a luxury product here, which is a higher point of entry and a higher level of commitment that people have to make. And there's a lot of hotels that have opened up around you in the last 10 years. And there's only 3.5% employment rate. And you're dealing with all of these external pressures. So what is your way to keep that turnover rate down and doing well? And we've been coming and doing this show here for a year, and I got to tell you, I see mostly the same people around all the time. I see some new faces, but I see a lot of stalwarts here too.
It's a management task.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, a little more complex, is beyond just having the right pay rates for everyone.
Right.
What's important is that you have the right leadership team in each little business unit, each department, and that they show an interest. They do more than just staff the department with the team, but they show an interest in everybody. So they get to know them a little bit, and they get to know what they want out of it. Mm-hmm. We had really high turnover in the kitchen for a couple of years. It was about 40%. How do you run 3 restaurants and a catering facility when you've got that kind of turnover? And I realized there was just a lack of engagement from the top of the department, meaning you weren't going over there and showing people, hey, you seem to have an interest in pastry. Let me show you some things. You have an interest in garde manger. Let me show you some stuff. Or I'd like you to try to come up with the specials. You got to challenge them.
When you went to Mark and talked to him about another opportunity, the gentleman that we talked about before that works here, that's a friend of mine, I guarantee you injected so much motivation, and because you cared, and I think that's such a big thing. Just show you care, and when you're being direct with someone, also, and you're being critical of someone, you're showing you care because you know they can do it. So I want to back up a little bit, Glenn, and I want to talk about. I think we hit on something that I think is so important. It's not about the trophy and all that stuff. It's about just own up and deal with your consequences. People say it all the time. It's like, you're not sorry, you're just sorry you got caught.
Right.
It's like, I think one of the things you see in our country, if you look at Alex Rodriguez, he's a perfect example of someone that probably people wanted to throw him out of New York, and now all of a sudden he's got a career comeback that I've never seen before. And people hated him for many reasons in New York, and now he can walk down New York City streets and everybody takes a picture with him. I think the reason he was able to come back is because at some point he threw himself on the mercy of New York City and said, "I suck. I'm terrible.
Right.
I can't believe I did that. I wouldn't like me either." And then all of a sudden he was able to resurrect his career. I think consequences, we don't talk about that enough. It's like, suck it up, Buttercup. Deal with the consequence, the pain. Deal with that pain. Deal with the embarrassment of what you did, and then move forward.
It makes you. It brings you out of the inhibitions and insecurities you may have when you start to face those things and think
there's a
about
lot of
them.
us that don't want to face them. And, there's a lot of things we've all done in our lives that's like, oh shit, I don't want to deal with that consequence.
Didn't he date Jennifer Lopez? I feel like our
he's
whole
going to marry her. He's getting married to her.
He's getting married to her. So our whole conversation is all about the effects of Jennifer Lopez today. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you know it's variable.
You're not going to believe me, but I actually dated Jennifer Lopez.
No.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Can we get the check, please? This podcast officially.
There was a young lady in high school. Her name was Jennifer Lopez. Yeah. And she's now...
Not an uncommon name.
She's now a nurse practitioner. So
I heard her doctor said she can't talk about those days anymore.
But you know what? I think there's twofold, right? There's consequences, and then there's the ability to communicate the consequences to the party at large. So, again, bringing up children. They'll lie to you because they're afraid of the consequences, right? And even if you explain to them, well, yes, there'll be a consequence, but you'll learn something, and I won't be mad, but there'll be a consequence. I think there should be a class, literally in any business school, called consequences. And we should really understand from the basic level of psychology of how that flows when consequences happen and how people lie because they don't want the consequence. And then how that in business basically comes into the business world of when you do make a mistake and you put your thumbprint on that unbelievable dish that's about to go out, that someone's paying $100 for in a 5-star restaurant. And it's like, well, you look the other way, it's like, oh shit, that was my thumbprint, but it's just going to go out. Take ownership of that and just clean the dish and say, I'm sorry, chef, I got to get that dish clean. Even if it means throwing the whole dish away and starting over, because I'm afraid to do that. And I think that there's really a lot of psychology that should go into that in business school.
Well, this is just one man's opinion. I really think it's the parents. I find that when I learn a little bit more about the young people that we hire, those who had closer relationships with their parents and spoke to their parents, and those are people they still go back to, whether it's their mom or dad or both. They admire their parents' station in life, and they pay attention to the pearls of wisdom that they issue. Those folks seem to be able to deal with, stepping on a landmine, but being resilient because they have a degree of humility, and they're not just consumed with avoiding the responsibility of ownership of things that don't go right. It's true, and that's not the sole reason. I mean, parents
I'm going
don't
to challenge you
wire all
on
the
that a
DNA.
little bit, because I had a strong mother, but I never really went to her for guidance because she had a lot of things going on. I find the people that have grown up a little bit not with the comfort of a parent or two parents that really guide them, that I find that those people are just as resilient, if not more resilient, because they're used to failing, they're used to not having what they want, they're used to not getting their way, and they've determined now they're going to get their way. And, I think so I really think it's individual more than it is any one thing. But I think wherever you get someone in their life, whether it be as an adult, a young adult, or an older adult, if we understand and we explain what we need from them and give them the consequences, or explain to them the consequences and explain to them, I think really the art of communication and the art of talking to people and the art of really telling you why do I
framing
feel
it
this
all,
way?
creating a context.
And I know for a long time I was more emotional than I was intellectual. And now when I try to explain people, whether it be on my team or whether it be wherever it is in life, whether it be on the podcast or whatever I do, is I'm trying to do both. I can't take the emotion out of myself because I'll die.
Right.
Like my wife said the other day when I was doing something, she goes, I watched it, but can you stop with the hands? I was like, if I do, I just might as well go on the ground and die. I said, I can't. I know. I don't realize I do that with my hands, but I can't. She goes, but it kind of got in the way of the show. It's like you were smacking yourself in the head. Basically, your hands were flying so high. I was like, I know, but I can't do anything about that. But I do slow down my mind. I can't slow down my hands, but I slow down my mind. And I just think it's just about the art of getting better every day. We have to just want to get better. And I think that is, people are going to come at us however they come at us. Whether they have a great family, don't have a great family, maybe they're full of shit, maybe they're not full of shit. It's our job, if every single one of us just took responsibility to communicate better and to take the emotion out and just deal with what's in front of them and let whatever's going to happen is going to happen, you'll be a lot better. And stop trying to hold on to people that you're afraid to hurt their feelings. I don't know if that means anything, but that's
I think that's really a really valid point, that it's just getting a little bit better every day and trying your best to get better every day. But the complication that I find in life is we throw up arbitrary deadlines and finishing lines and stuff like that, like we're actually going to get something complete, but we fail to realize that it never ends. It's a constant struggle to always get better until ultimately we just are over. Our lives are over.
So let me ask you something,
right?
Grady. Let me ask you something, Grady. That's a great point. When someone comes to you and there's a project and they say, "Hey, boss, when do you need it?" What's your answer to that?
Oh, I ask them to determine whether they fully understand the scope of it. I ask them to lay it out. When do you think it can be done? And then I think my job is enabler. If it needs to be done earlier, I ask how I can assist in removing some obstacles or giving some guidance. But everything's got a due date, so sometimes I do have to say, well, you're going to have to pedal harder to get up the hill.
Right,
but you should incorporate other people.
And the reason I asked that question, because I felt that would be your answer, because that's a beautiful way of answering it. I always try when people say, boss, when's it due? I'm like, I hate arbitrary deadlines. I hate them. Unfortunately, 15th of October, the budget is due. Okay, I think I gave it to you in enough time, but is there anything I can do to get you help to get you to that date if you're feeling a little pressured by it? I hate, like, if my boss tells me there's a date Monday and they're telling me on Saturday and it's a true date, I'm good. I'll work all day, 24 hours a day until it's done. No problem, boss. I got it. But if you're going to put that date on just to make it easier for yourself and make it really hard for me and it's going to sit on your desk for a week and a half, which we've all seen in our lives where we've killed ourselves to get
That's
something.
the freaking worst.
And then it sits there for a week and a half, that is when you get resentment. And I think the way you just said it, it's like be part of the solution. If there's some days, look, just by having a business, it's got to be done.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. There are times when I will give people not so much an arbitrary goal, but it's, the date might not be a solid date where something has to be delivered. But this particular individual tends to lag and needs to have those dates. So I might apply a little pressure to see how they work under pressure, to get them conditioned a little bit more. So when the time does come and we need to get things done, they don't think I'm going to ask, well, whenever you can get to it, what do you need from me?
Right. But that's making someone better, and there's a purpose. Yeah. There's way too much things being done in business that have no purpose just because people are insecure. And too many people, and I think it is absolutely an epidemic in our industry and in business period, there are way too many people that have never been given a management class, never been given a communication class, and they're responsible for 20 people, and their lives, basically financial lives, are in their hands, and these people have no effing idea how to manage people. And I think that's an epidemic across the board, whether it be in the medical profession or in business profession. Like, we are doing something just horrifically wrong at a very young age to teach people how to manage their feelings and manage their emotions and manage other people around them. And the time they become a person that's in a serious situation where people depend on them to make that very slight change. I'm not going to treat Mary in accounting the way I'm going to treat Mary in housekeeping, because Mary in accounting needs the pressure. Mary in housekeeping can clean 18 rooms, have them all done perfectly by 1 o'clock and say, boss, what do you need? I'm never going to apply fake pressure to her. Mm-hmm. But Mary in accounting, my P&Ls are always late. Mary in accounting needs, again, not disrespectful pressure, where you're not doing it, you're just doing it because you feel like screwing with someone, but because you're making her better. And just so many people just don't understand that. And the reason you've been so successful in this career field is because somehow along the way, not only your dad, but somewhere along the way, you figured it out. And I just don't see too many people figuring it out. And that's why the first time we spoke to you, it was, I think, one of our best podcasts. And I think even now this is one of my favorite podcasts, because you're thoughtful in your answers and you're thoughtful in the way you manage people. And there's just not enough of that, in my opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. So it sounds to me, the message that we're getting out of this is you have to employ a lot of different techniques and strategies to personalize your approach for each individual, right?
Exactly.
What is that process like, where you suss out what that individual needs in order to be most successful in the role that they have?
Well, insensitively, it starts with, what do you need to run the business? Mm-hmm. So, and then it goes to, let's look around and see who we can cast into that role, who's shown that they've got some core values and they've shown some promise in adapting to some methodology, and we've been able to shape some habits with them, because I think an employer does that. Mm-hmm. And that's how we decide where we're going to move the pieces around the chessboard, right, if you will. And if you do it well, you get people in roles where they flourish. I've had people in 2 or 3 roles, and you start to feel like, you know what, they're hitting the good level but not the great level. Let's try something else, because we need great in this, and you push them into something else, and lo and behold, accidentally we might have made a great move and they flourish in it. And a housekeeping person that was a manager for a few years and did okay but not great, and put him in a food and beverage role and really flourished. Turned out there was a whole part of his identity that we didn't know that just lent itself to being that great maitre d'. And now he gets more hugs from our guests than anyone else, and has built, a great loyalty.
Right, and that's worked out well for you.
It's always
as
casting.
Well. Mm-hmm.
It's always casting. But my comment about those values that you get from your parents early on, that's just one variable. But if you have that, I can't give that to you. I'm an employer. I can't rewire your DNA. But if you've got some good values that help you become resilient, help you to listen, help you to demonstrate some humility at work, we can teach you work ethic a bit because we're going to demand it from you.
Right.
We're going to teach you the tasks. If it's a hotel in a segment like luxury or upper upscale, we might have to teach you style a little and help you refine yourself because you're too young to have experienced this all yourself as the end user. There's a lot of molding that takes place, but it starts with that finding the right person. When we interview, we try to interview at all levels in one day, which means I commit to text me, and I'm going to drop whatever I'm doing so we can get them on board right away. But we spend an inordinate amount of time talking about what the criteria is. You don't work off a job description to hire. We have an opening, here's the job description, the HR person looks at that, and they think they know what to do. No, this is an individual, in a management capacity, as an example, it's going to be part of a team. To me, a team, I always liken it to a band. I don't need 5 guitar players. That's not music. That's noise. So if I've got a great drummer and bass player and guitar player, then we're looking for the vocalist. So we're looking for specific identity characteristics and personalities. I always think there's so much you can teach and impart, but you can't build core values before they come in.
100%.
And you can't reshape a personality. You can have parameters for how the personality behaves.
You can shift them. You can't change them.
Yeah. So I would say, it's funny. I was thinking about this week, and right after this, I have an interview for a key position we've been looking at for a long time. I wasn't going to be here today. This was important. That was important, and that's my whole day. And I had someone say to me they were interviewing for a guest service agent last week, and they said, I just want to thank you. You spent so much time with me, and I've learned so much, and I'm really excited. I hope I get this job. And I said, I'm excited too, because this was the most important thing I did today.
Right.
It really was.
So let me ask you this then. Forget about everybody else. How do you make sure you are continuing to grow as a professional? Because you're at the top of the food chain in this property. And, yeah, of course, everyone's got bosses and stuff like that. But you're not necessarily dealing with that to the same level that your staff is dealing with it. So how do you put checks and balances on yourself, and how do you make sure that you continue to be the best person you could be every single day going forward?
Oh, that's easy for me because I always think of myself as an underachiever.
Right.
Which makes me want to learn more. And learn more means, to me, always asking why and how or show me.
Right.
So I want to look at that. I don't like to be given answers to the outcome of something without understanding how and why. Is this going to be lasting? Show me. So in this particular building, people, I think, get a kick out of the fact that when they come in to talk to me about something, I get up and I say, let's go look at it right now.
Right.
I can't comment on it. I'm never going to be expert in our 5 water boiler system, but take me down and show me so I have a basis of understanding, because ultimately I have some responsibility for this, which is the other thing that drives me. I feel a greater responsibility for everything, because this isn't my money. It's the owner's money, or it's the company's money. It's not mine. These aren't just numbers on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is, I learn a lot by figuring out what it is I'm supposed to sign my name on for that check or that purchase order or that profit and loss statement. That's the report card, right? So at the end of the month, I cannot sit there and not be able to speak intelligently about any of that. And that helps me keep growing, because I don't know everything.
And as a one general manager to another general manager, the biggest anxiety I've ever had was talking to an engineer and trying to understand, can we fix it in-house and save money, or do we have to get a third party to come in and fix it? And the only way for me to really give them an intelligent answer, because their answer is always, well, we have a third party to come in and it's going to charge us $2,000. And I'm like, well, can't we do this, that, and the other thing? And the only way to start being able to ask those questions is show me. Right? I mean, how many times have you had that in your career where it's like, why can't we fix this? But it's like, well, we need a third party. And you've had to have some kind of basis to make that decision.
Absolutely. Ironically, that area always comes to you with the largest expenses, doesn't it?
100%.
It's the area you know the least about. But in any, I think in the role of a general manager, no matter where you are, if you started with a great property that just opened in a new evolving market, sooner or later things are going to level off. You're going to get the share, you're going to get the market's going to deliver what it's going to deliver. You have to find new ways, and you surrounded yourself with a great team, whether it's the revenue team or the operations team that's controlling all the expenses and the integrity of what the promise is based on what market you're in. You can't just rely on that. I think I have a great team here, and I trust everyone, and they run their areas. But communicating with them has to be me saying, I don't really get it. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So there's a level of humility that I learned to have. Earlier on, I didn't, and it was like the kid who didn't raise his hand in math class to understand, this next algorithm, and I'd go home and fake it and muddle through it somehow, but it worked. This is it. There's it's an A or it's an F. There's nothing in between. Right. It's acceptable.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely critical. I think you have to ask questions, and you have to want to know the answer, not ask questions that you think you know the answer. Like ask a question because you want to really find out.
Like
you're the answer.
You're genuinely still into it. That's obvious. You say it, but I can tell. I even think like you would love to have a hotel right now.
Oh yeah, he would.
Because it's fun. I mean, I'm blessed that I fell into this business. I've enjoyed every day of it. There have been some days that have been a little off, but that comes with growing.
Right.
Well, thank you for noticing that.
It's engaging.
I say it. I've said it to Glenn probably, and I've said it to other people, where because of the career I've had in the last 9 years, people in their mind have a certain understanding of me, and for in a number of ways. But I'm a hotel man. I'm a general manager. And I say, don't laugh or don't be surprised if you see me running a 5-star or 4-star hotel in the near future. And people are like, never. And I'm like, don't ever, because I will almost 100% guarantee you before it's all over, I will be general manager of a hotel again. I will almost guarantee that, because what you're saying, it's driving me nuts that I'm not, because I jones for the team. Like, I am an individual, and I love the competition of individual play, whether it be poker or race car driving. But there's no greater high than when you can get a bunch of people together. Because really, individually, I don't care how smart you are, right? I just call it the band of misfits. Just because we all have our idiosyncrasies and our all crazy way of thinking, and you put these band of misfits together. Again, it could be highly functional misfits, but we're all misfits. Putting them together, and then all of a sudden that gold comes out of the faucet that we turned on. Holy hopping snot, Batman. And to get back to what you were saying before, I found out what the key to success as a general manager was probably 15, 20 years ago.
Let me get my pen.
No, for me, what my success was, to get me to the point where I had no responsibility, where I had zero to do, that I would come in, check my emails, set up my day, know kind of where I need to be or what I need to do, what meeting or whatever, but basically have so much free time that I have nothing, like really, out of my 8 hours, 6 hours are free. Because what happens in those 6 hours? You give that kid that's coming in the door for a 20-minute interview 40 minutes. You give that housekeeper that's having scheduling problems that needs 20 minutes of your time an hour. And all of a sudden you become this just unbelievable character of, just go in his office, he'll talk to you, no worries. And by the way, he doesn't really have anything to do, so like keep him busy because he looks bored. Like he looks out, he just walks around aimlessly. Like I love being that guy because as soon as you tell me point and shoot, dude, I'm a sniper. I'm gonna focus. If I don't have the time to think, if I feel stressed out by my agenda, if I feel stressed out by my schedule, I can't be a sniper. I can't take the time to breathe, to point, to take the hour it takes to get that person in my target and then take them out. So that's how I see problems. I need for problems to really come to me when I have a clear head and when I really, like you said, like show me, let me understand it. You can't do that if you don't have the time. And I think that's where general managers make the mistakes.
True. Too much golf, not enough engagement.
Right.
But when you get to the point where you have that free time because the team is clicking on all 8 cylinders, if you will, you can step back and start to think about the next chapter of the business because you know it's not going to be smooth sailing forever, so you can become more creative and have a vision for the future of what you want it to be.
And you can mentor.
Keeping it positioned.
And you can mentor. I think the greatest achievement of any great leader is mentorship. You know, you have to mentor. I don't mentor probably the way you do, and I don't mentor probably the way a lot of people do. I speak quick, I move quick, and it's like I want you to kind of jump in. If you want my opinion, I want you to take my opinion.
Right.
I'm not going to sit there for an hour and a half and tell you the whys all the time. It's like if you want to be around me and you want to hear me speak or you want a piece of advice, I'm going to give it to you, but I am not the school professor. I don't have the patience for it. But I think it's so important to make yourself accessible to it.
Absolutely.
All right, so I've got one more question for you. I know we've been here a long time, and you actually do have to work today at some point. But we've talked a lot about your leadership and what you do for your team. What does your staff teach you every single day or every once in a while?
I would say that, Anthony was referring to it as a band of misfits, and I think it is in the beginning, and then it becomes this tight community. Mm-hmm. So it's funny, I guess they used to refer to it as managing up. I think it's just the art of manipulation, which is, if it's done well, no one's taken advantage of.
Right.
I think they manipulate me well. They tell me where to be. I get grabbed a lot to go talk to a guest that I might not have had the opportunity to meet before, or nurture a relationship a little bit more. So often the doorman, the bellman will say, "Oh, come here. I want to introduce you to this person." So I've made some great guest relationships
and that is
way.
so critical and says everything about your management style. Think of the words he just said. The general manager, employee grabs me a lot. They basically say, "Hey, go talk to this person. Go talk to that person." We both know someone that I haven't worked for him, but we know somebody very big in this business that I would say we both worked for, right? On different levels. Mm-hmm. And would you ever grab that person and just in the middle of the day grab him, interrupt his day, and say, "Go do this"?
No. In that scenario, it was their perspective on how things should be done was maybe more appropriate for ExxonMobil than it was for making a big hotel or a small hotel or a medium hotel feel small to everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's a critical flaw in a lot of leaders is like, allow your team to manipulate you, because if you're allowing yourself to be manipulated, you're not being manipulated because you're allowing it.
Oh, that's the best education. I mean, they're showing me, come here, come to the kitchen, see what this cook just produced. Come down here, see how this engineer just did this. If they thought that I was, inaccessible or aloof, I'd never have the opportunity to see those things. I'd never have the opportunity to know, that person has the potential to do other things. And
being inaccessible and aloof, there's two ways to be that. One, schedule-driven, where you just don't have the time, and then some personality-driven, where you just don't give a shit, right? And neither one of those are good, right? You can be a really caring, wonderful person, but your schedule is not allowing you to. People say to me all the time, when I take a picture with somebody in the airport, they're like, "Man, you give that guy 10 minutes." It's like, I had the time to give him 10 minutes. I'm a big UFC fan. I was just in the airport the other day, and there was a heavyweight champion, Cain Velasquez. I don't know if you guys know that name. And he's now with the WWE. He just fought Brock Lesnar. But anyway, I'm in the airport the other day, and I see him. He sees me at the same time. He notices me. He loves my show. I love him. He's my favorite UFC fighter because he's a gentleman. And I literally had to leave to go into the lounge because I wanted to relax. Like, he wanted to keep talking. Like, we were talking for 20 minutes, and if I would have allowed myself, I would have spoken to the man for 2 hours. He was so accessible, so kind, so nice. He's going to fight Brock Lesnar in WWE, the biggest fight maybe of the year, and he was sitting around like he had nothing to do, nothing to think about. He was just a guy. And I got such a feeling from him that I literally I figure out how to get in touch with him and write him a letter of just that. Those 20 minutes, like, really made me like just even a bigger fan because he had nothing to do. And he was like, "Hey, man, let's just talk. We're just people." It was wonderful.
That's cool.
And I think that is so – and the only way you can get to show people how wonderful you are is to get your schedule to a point where you're not running all the time. Early in my career, I couldn't talk to you. One, I didn't really give a shit. And two, I was just really busy. Now it's like all I want to do is spend time with people and get their perspective. Even on this podcast, it's teaching me when you're speaking, like I've interrupted you twice, but then I stopped. I'm learning to listen. I'm learning to let you go because if I let you go, you're going to give me everything I want anyway. So if I interrupt you, I'm probably not going to get the best part of what you're saying. And we've learned that with each other. We don't rarely ever interrupt each other. I mean, sometimes you interrupt me, but we don't talk about that.
Now you accuse me of that when I'm trying to.
Well, Glenn, I remember when you called me and you said you've really had enough of the interruptions. Would I be able to step in because you were going to cut Anthony out? And I said, I'm sorry, I'm busy running the hotel.
I'm doing important work.
Once again,
he has
I'm all alone
far
over
more
here
to talk about.
Well, I think this has been great. This feels like the right place to kind of wrap it up for today. Unless Anthony, you've got another 24 topics you want to.
No,
talk
Grady,
about.
tell us something.
He does have another.
I know.
Every great general manager has great cufflinks, and my friend Grady here has got great cufflinks from, I would say, either a presidential visit or some kind of military visit.
Yeah, these were given to me through, not directly, but through George W. Bush, who was visiting the Waldorf Astoria. And I was down in the room service area one day looking for the manager, and I found this gentleman in a suit coming out of the refrigerator walk-in box, and I didn't recognize him. It was a big place. And I said, "Sir, could I help you?" And he said, "Well, I'm looking for some guacamole." And I said, "Well, I'm sure we could get that for you. Do you work here?" Now, there was about 2,000 employees there, so there was a good chance I might not have seen this person. But he was dressed kind of, the typical blue suit, red tie, white shirt. I suspected he might have something to do with the president being upstairs.
Right.
So he was George W.'s personal assistant. And he said he just wants to have some quesadillas and some guacamole. So I thought I'd come down and get it for him. So I said, go upstairs. How many people? And we got the quesadillas and guacamole upstairs. And he came down the next day and he gave me these Camp
That's
David
awesome.
Presidential Retreat cufflinks. So I always wear them, and when I'm wearing blue because they match the blue shirt well, and it reminds me of the glory days at the Waldorf Astoria.
And if you're not addicted to that,
Right.
just think about that story, right? We see the president, right, or whoever the president is, representing our country. We've grown up knowing the president is important. You go into the hotel business just because you like hospitality. And then one day, you're in a walk-in. And George W. Bush's right-hand man wants guacamole for the president. And you're responsible for getting guacamole because you're a hospitality guy. And the next thing you know is you have cufflinks from the President of the United States. If this isn't the coolest effing business in the history of mankind, I don't know what is.
Oh, we could probably go all day with those stories,
Outstory each other.
run-ins with celebrities and notables.
Well, that sounds like the perfect thing for us to do. Maybe after hours at the Rose Room, which just recently reopened. That's a speakeasy over here. I'm dying to check it out this year. They got night flights on Friday nights. Ooh, that sounds really good. A whiskey flight. I could totally do that one, Anthony. I know you're into that. Live music on Saturday nights, but I think it's really cool that you guys opened up a speakeasy here last year, and it's great to see it back open now that your outdoor space has to close down because of stupid winter weather.
Yep, stupid winter weather. Well, thanks for the plug on that.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Better this year than last year. Tons of whiskeys, and when the weather gets cold, I go from the clear spirits to the brown spirits, so I love it down there, too.
Yeah,
I got some great local musicians that who we're focused on this year is getting some exposure for some of the local musicians that might have a hard time finding gigs, and we have a pretty affluent crowd that comes in, so they never know who they're going to run into because a lot of the acts that traverse Long Island stay with us, and they like to go down there and kind of hang out at
So
night.
you never know. Somebody might just kind of pop on.
Let me ask you a
and play.
question.
Yeah.
Would it ever be, and this is just, I don't know if it would work or not work, have like a little comedy club going on down there?
Yeah. We were
Late at
thinking
night?
about that.
Because
Why not?
comedy is so big right now. And, you're in an area where when the big celebrities and even the medium celebrities that do comedy are in and out. You're right near JFK Airport. You're near Manhattan. We just talked to a gentleman who owns a comedy club out in Mohegan Sun in their hotel. What was it called? The Roadhouse?
Comics Roadhouse. COMIX. Check it out. That's episode 80 of the Checking In podcast.
And they're full every night. And I think so many people are into comedy. And comedy is, bigger and better than it's ever been. That's interesting.
Yeah,
but
great.
before we end, I'm going to ask you to tell us something we don't know, but we're going to have a celebrity off. So you're going to tell me something we don't know that has to do with meeting a celebrity, and I'm going to figure out a celebrity in my career, and I'm going to tell you something I don't know. So tell us something we don't know.
Well, I'm a big rock and roll fan, and when I first started to get the music handed down from my older brother and sister,
Right.
I got some Chuck Berry cassettes. One of them might have been an 8-track, believe it or not, and I fell in love with that music. And one day I was working at the Waldorf Astoria, and I went to get on the elevator, and lo and behold, there's Chuck Berry on the elevator with his guitar case, and he's the only one on the elevator, and he doesn't seem to know where he is. And I said, Mr. Berry, welcome to the Waldorf Astoria. Can I assist you with anything? And he said, I think I got on the local bus. I said, well, I don't know what that means. He said, I'm supposed to play a gig tonight, and I'm not sure where it is. So I assumed he was playing in the Grand Ballroom because there was a band rehearsing during the day, and I know that he travels around the country by himself. There's a house band. He goes on, just walks on and plays with them. So I figured he was playing in the ballroom. I found out he wasn't. I'm talking on the walkie-talkie to the banquet director. He's not there. That's not the place for him. I bring him up to his suite, and he gives me the phone number of someone that booked him, and I call this person. Turns out he's playing a 50th birthday party downtown.
Oh, boy.
But he is, how am I supposed to get there? I said, well, how'd you get to the hotel? Now, Chuck Berry always traveled by himself. His assistant booked the flight. He'd fly into New York. He rented a car at Kennedy Airport, drove himself into Manhattan, got to the hotel, and after that, now keep in mind, he was, I want to say, 77 at this point. He seemed to need a little assistance. So, long story short is, I found the restaurant, I found the contact, I got him a town car, I put him in it, I took him down to the show, and waited around after the show, brought him back, got him the same thing to eat, which was he wanted a turkey sandwich and a carafe of pineapple juice again. I thought, gee, that's an interesting meal. That'll keep you up for a little while at night. But I got to hang out with him for a little while. He was a super nice guy, and, I've never been starstruck because you meet so many people, and it's not the protocol to be starstruck in our business. But I guess I kind of was thinking, this is the father of rock and roll. So I got a picture of him, and I have one in my dining room at home that my wife says it does not belong there, and I have one in my office. And that's the only picture I have with a celebrity, because it's the only guy that I ever thought, wow, that's pretty cool.
That's
Father of rock and roll.
And it's all, the conduit is the hotel business, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it never happened otherwise.
What's that?
It would have never happened otherwise had I not been doing that.
All right, so Anthony, tell us something we don't know about you and musically related.
The Oak Room, 1991, Stevie Wonder comes into the Oak Room, into the Plaza Hotel. Brian LaRota, who's his manager, says, hey, he called me Tony. He goes, Tony, Stevie wants to, and Stevie Wonder's standing right there. He goes, Stevie wants to have a sandwich or get something to eat. Well, the Oak Room was closed, and unions being unions in New York, once the restaurant's closed, it's closed. I went into the restaurant, maybe it was 11, 12 o'clock at night. I spoke the way a Brooklyn guy speaks. The restaurant opened. I brought Mr. Wonder and Mr. LaRota into the room. Mr. LaRota, about an hour later, comes over to me and goes, Mr. Wonder wants to speak to you. I go back and speak to Mr. Wonder. He goes, take my arm. I took his arm. He goes, bring me the piano. I brought him the piano, and he played a concert for me.
Oh, my God.
I got tears in my eyes.
Wow.
He played a concert for me.
That's awesome. One
One song he played was Mr. and Mrs. Little One. I literally get emotional talking about Mr. and Mrs. Little One, which was never been recorded. It was his personal song about underprivileged children. And by the third song, he played two songs, but by the third song, he started getting into a jam, and I turned around, and there was a whole bunch of people behind me, and there was like 100 people in the room. They came from, it's like, again, it's 1 o'clock in the morning at this time, 1 o'clock. And then on page 6, we didn't drop it to the media, but on page 6, a couple days later, it's like Stevie Wonder jams out at the Oak Room. It's like I was responsible for that.
That is
simply
amazing.
because
Amazing.
I got the room open.
Wow.
That one's got to be in your memoirs when you sit down to write that.
It's so funny you said that. It's actually in my book. I'm writing the book.
And it's your favorite sandwich. Whatever it was he had.
What's that?
Whatever that sandwich was your favorite sandwich.
He was just so gentle, and he used to come in a lot, and he used to stay in room 1801. 1801 was a suite. If you ever watched the Eddie Murphy movie, can't remember what the name of the movie was. It wasn't one of his best movies. But anyway, he filmed it at the 1801 Presidential Suite where Stevie Wonder used to be. Now, as most of us know, Stevie Wonder's blind. Well, think about Stevie Wonder staying in a 10,000 square foot presidential suite. Doesn't work. But around the presidential suite, there are little rooms. So he had room 1803 from the elevator. Mm-hmm. You can go to 1803, which was supposed to be like the assistant room, which is a very small room, and that's where he used to sleep, and that's where he stayed because that room was easy for him to manage. And then his entire entourage got the suite, the piano, the grand foyer, but he would stay in this little room. I never forgot that as long as I live. Here he is, one of the greatest musicians,
greatest songwriters
ever. He was prodigy when he was like 7. One of the greatest people ever in the history of entertainment, and here he is in this little room while his entourage is in the big room.
Very cool. Very cool.
So, Glenn, besides telling us if your softball team won this morning, tell us something we don't know. And for you, for people that obviously no one can see this, but he's I don't know what color that is. Gold?
Gold
and
with
black.
blue arms. It definitely looks like it's a baseball shirt from 1978 Little League for sure. But I got it at Old Navy.
Right. So did you win this morning?
It was a tough match there, you know.
That bench, was it warm?
After I sat on it for 9 innings, it was nice and toasty. But thank you, I appreciate it.
It's a tough room, folks.
Yeah, real tough room.
So
the whole point about doing podcasts is that we don't have to get all dressed up and stuff like that.
And you really take that you take that to the extreme.
You know what? The more that we get to know each other, the more that we record together, the sloppier I show up every single day because I feel more comfortable.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start showing up. Just I'm not overdressed. I don't have a suit on, but I'm comfortably dressed. Yeah. I'm just going to stop taking showers, so I just smell you out.
That's good, man.
When he shows up in a robe, you'll be changing venues.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us something we don't know.
All right. So I know we want to keep it music related and stuff like that. And back in my prior life, I started out as a music and entertainment writer, and I got to hang out with a lot of bands, particularly at the Jones Beach Theater, which was a lot of fun. A lot of partying backstage, like watching great bands like the Allman Brothers and stuff like that from on side stage. But none of that matters because we've been talking about Jennifer Lopez a couple times. So I got my own J-Lo story that I got to sit in here. I worked with my buddy who was a music video editor. He was the top dude back in the mid to late 1990s, early 2000s, and he cut all the videos for Bad Boy Entertainment. This was going on East Coast, West Coast wars and stuff like that. Poor guy would call me. He's like, I'm scared to leave the studio tonight because I'm afraid I'm going to get gunned down. I mean, it was like really serious stuff. But Diddy, or I think it was Puff Daddy at the time, he keeps changing his name every few years, started to date J-Lo, who was going to break her first album. So we were editing her first ever music video. So she came over to our studio, which was in Chelsea, an old studio apartment in Chelsea, and she came to hang out with us for the day, and the entire time just had like beauty teams there working on her hands and her toes and her hair and stuff like that, and we just spent the whole day editing the video and kind of hanging out, and because I was more on the finance side, I had to go out and get everybody sandwiches and stuff like that, which is very rewarding to get her a sandwich. So we got to spend the day with her, and then Brian, my editor friend, got to go up and show them a rough cut of the video while she was in bed with Puffy up at the Four Seasons Hotel. So that was very exciting for him as well. So it's my J-Lo story, which isn't as good as hanging out on stage with the Allman Brothers and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is a brush with greatness for sure.
You know what? I wouldn't tell that story unless I was the guy that ended up at the Four Seasons with J-Lo.
Well, he did bring them the sandwiches in bed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right, so listen. I never said it was going to be a great story, but I did want to make it relevant. Now, if you want to hear good stories, I used to have them, and I told them on earlier episodes of this of this series. But really, that was a really interesting time in my life working in the hip hop business back there in the late 1990s.
So, we've been doing this show now for over a year, and we've done it a lot here at the Garden City. And really, we said it last time, we say every time we see you, but I mean that you allow us to come in here and you allow us to do this, and your staff is unbelievably accommodating. It's our homes at this point. So just from the bottom of our heart, really appreciate it. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't do this. And, I know we mentioned your hotel on air and that helps. So we do, kind of a trade out. You give us a space and we talk about it. But genuinely, from a service standpoint, a cleanliness standpoint, and just a feeling of hospitality in this hotel, I mean, you couldn't pay me enough money to say that I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. I don't care if you paid me $1 million. I wouldn't say it. I mean, I truly feel being in New York as many years and running hotels as many years as I've done it, I've not really experienced anything like this anywhere in New York City. So you guys kill it, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, that's high praise. I appreciate it. Best part's going to be sharing it at the staff meeting on Thursday.
Well, thank you. Hey, that's another thing. If you ever want me to speak at a staff meeting or just kind of come in and talk,
that'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah.
Sure, and if you ever want riveting stories for me to tell, I'm here for you.
Love to have you both here.
Love to have you both
here.
As long as I can bring the sandwiches.
You have a softball team because he's dressed properly.
It's never too late to start.
No, but honestly, I would love to come in and do like a stand-up or a meeting or like a 15-minute.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great.
I'd love to do it.
All right, we'll talk about that.
All right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here. But before we wrap up, Anthony, how can we find you online?
Anywhere you want to be on the internet at Anthony Hotels.
Great. And I am, of course, at Traveling Glenn. Be sure to check out not only this series and share it with your friends, your colleagues, everybody out there. Also check out my No Vacancy with Glenn Haussman series, where I talk to the top leaders in hospitality every single week. Hotel Tech Podcast, Hotel Design Podcast, Business Hotels Podcast. But, of course, we love checking in with Anthony and Glenn. And, again, subscribe to us online, wherever you get your shows. And I want to thank Grady for being here. So for Anthony, Grady, and myself, what do we do?
Thanks for checking in.
That's right. Thanks for checking in. See you guys next time.
It's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's Checking In with Anthony